Mr. Mark Watson!
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Mark Watson's Football Shambles. I'm Mark Watson, and it's a bit about football, and it'll be shit. That's where the title comes from. Too early, really, for that kind of joke. No, it'll actually be quite good. This will be quite good. There's always a bit of tension at the start of the show. The will it be shit question always sort of hangs heavy in the air, and that's almost the case with any live comedy event. So there are two main things people worry about, in fact, at the start of a comedy show: will it be shit, and will I be picked on? So just to immediately sort of disperse those worries, no, it won't be shit. It'll actually be good. We've got some good acts. We're also going to have some fun, which is sort of quite popular these days. And in terms of will I be picked on, no, definitely not. This is a benefit gig. We'll come on to that in a moment. So it's not the sort of gig where, unfortunately, some comedians do tend to start the gig by sort of finding someone quite near the front, ideally someone that sort of looks like they won't quite much of a fight, and then just saying, where are you from? Dagenham, oh, I fucked your mum. No, that passes for comedy quite a lot these days. As a result, comedians like me who are more mild-mannered have to fight a battle to convince audiences that we are not here to victimise them. So I can definitely tell you, having said that, of course, I'm merely the host of this event. There'll be other people that are coming on, and some of them could be animals. But certainly with me, you'll be absolutely fine. And yeah, it'll be good. As I say, you don't be sitting there thinking, oh dear, I hope this isn't a sort of terrible waste of an evening, because it should be pretty good. I mean, worst case scenario, I don't think you'll be bitterly sorry that you came. You know, and we're talking worst case scenario, even if, and I don't think this will happen, but even if it's a bit disappointing, which as I say, I don't think it will be, but even if it isn't that good, I still don't think it'll be the sort of thing where you walk away saying to the person who bought the tickets, why did you know, it's not going to be that sort of situation. This won't be a relationship ender of a show. There'll be no sort of so basically, just strap yourselves in for some fun. I mean, it's all relative, really. Michael McIntyre's doing a show in this venue during this evening, which is, I should add, sold out already in case anyone talks facts. But I'm just telling you that so that if nothing else, if you really hate everything that happens in this show, McIntyre is famous, so you can go home and probably claim that you saw him to your friends, and you'll have the right theatre and stuff, so that'll be fine. But I'm going to aim to make it better than Michael's show. I haven't seen Michael's show, or he's doing a work in progress show, so I don't know. But we'll send a sort of spy in to report back periodically, and if there's ever a time when people are visibly having more fun there than they are here, I will do our best to right that wrong, either by sort of ramping up the fun level organically here, or by bringing McIntyre in here. Anyway, listen, I'm rambling on, not least because it's my job. I'm the host of the show, but I'm going to now tell you a little bit about what. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to tell you a bit about what the show is about. I'm going to introduce a film. Yeah, so I should probably drill you a bit as an audience to start with. I'm not going to do too many bits where I make you do audience responses. It's all a bit sort of awkward, but we may as well practice cheering when acts come on, and also sort of go woo when something interesting happens, because those are sort of core skills, really. So very quickly, and I'm sorry to insult you in terms, many of you will have been to comedy shows before, or if not comedy shows, many of you will have done stuff before, but you'll be familiar with the rudiments of sort of clapping and showing approval. Surely most of you have had a thing happen in your life that you approved of, so you don't technically need a clapping practice. But can we just do a little bit of practice? This is, as much as anything, simply to warm you up as an audience. Can we firstly practice just clapping in a sort of, sorry, that was that person's fault. I didn't finish the sentence, but your skills are excellent, but it is about timing as well. I was going to say, can you practice clapping as if you're sort of quite enthusiastic, but keeping something back? I want to sort of do this in stages. So, but whoever was down there, I think, should get us started. So starting with that person and spreading all the way back. Can you please now clap as if you're excited but wary? Go for it. Okay, that's sort of the hopefully it will always be more than that, but that's just to sort of give us a basic level of clapping. And then the next thing I'd like is sort of a few stages on from that. So your wariness is evaporated. You're now in a decent mood. but at the same time, they're not completely ready to let go. Maybe you've got sort of a bit of paperwork at home that needs doing. So, so can we have clapping, a bit of cheering, pretty much happy, but with still a few nagging doubts? And now the final stage of approval is that, again, we're several notches up the cheering ladder now. We're now looking at sort of almost indecent displays of excitement. We're going to practice now clapping and cheering and stuff in a way which, if someone next to you was doing it, it would be sort of slightly horrible. But because everyone's doing it, it'll be great. It'll be sort of be a real loosener. It's like when first day at school and everyone gets naked. I'm not sure I've got that right. I think I'm thinking of night school. Anyway, so can we now clap and cheer as if sort of anything that you were likely to be worried about in the next 40 years has been lifted, and just everything, and basically just cheering for your life is basically now fine from now on. Go. So great, those are great. I mean, that augurs really well, because that was not even in response to anything, that was just me asking you to do that. So I can only think that your responses, when you actually get some entertainment, will be even better. So you've got everything you need in terms of audience tools, you've got sort of plenty of cheering skills. In a minute I'm going to talk a bit more, but yes, the other thing is getting you practicing what happens when something interesting happens. So in other words, sort of, this will happen quite a lot tonight, because there's going to be sort of games and competitions, prize giving, things which if you didn't say all to that, you'd be dead, basically. But nonetheless, it takes a bit of guts to be the first person to do it. So can we just practice? There'll be no graduation this time. We're simply going to just go straight in. So can you please sort of make a noise of intriguement? Can you say intriguement? If you can't, you should be able to. I tell you what, fuck it, I don't care. I can say intriguement. Is it a rule? Is that the OED? I'll just tear that up, I think. Can you make a noise as if to say, so I'll actually trigger this. This is more like a pantomime. I'll say, we've now got a competition, and if you could sort of practice, make a noise of intriguement. So coming up now, a competition. Very good, and with that in mind, with that experience behind you, I'm now going to say the first thing that actually should elicit that noise from you, and feel free to use your sort of new practice skills straight away. As you might know, this whole thing is to raise a sort of small amount of money and a small amount of awareness of a remarkable thing that my brother has done, which is he's basically become the world's youngest international football coach. And this is quite a long and complicated story. So he and his friend Matt have made a film, which we were going to put on at the start. The way the show was going to start was lights would go down, quite a lot of excitement in the room, and then this film will come up explaining everything. But the sound doesn't work. So that's why I've had to come on and introduce the introductory film. And if we could have, we would have got someone to introduce my introduction to it as well. So you're now going to watch what I can only describe as a slightly compromised version of a film. There are certainly some films where it's an advantage not to be able to hear what's going on. You think of Becoming Jane, for example, the wretched Anne Hathaway vehicle. Absolute shit from start to finish. Riddled with inaccuracies about Jane Austen, and not just inaccuracies, but speculation that was total hokum. Hathaway, Wooden, McAvoy, benign as ever. It was shit. Anyway, I could have quite happily watched Becoming Jane without this. It would have been better, because it would have been sort of, you know, spared inaccuracies about one of our great writers. I don't even really like Jane Austen, but I certainly don't like seeing English literature being taken for a ride like that. That's as maybe. However, when you're looking at a film which is purely made to describe and explain a few key concepts, there's no denying that sound is useful. I mean, sound is useful to start. That's why we have it. Sound and music and noise has got an enormous sort of track record of enhancing things. Nonetheless, we must do without them. So what we're going to do is show you the visuals of this film, and a combination of me and Paul, my brother, and Matt are going to sort of describe the film. So it would be like watching it with a signer, I suppose, or with just a really bad telly. And after that, the show proper will start. So really, I mean, show hasn't even really started yet. All this is just me teeing up the fact there's going to be a film which in turn introduces things. But we've sort of been here for sort of nearly an hour. So without further ado, please welcome, to narrate their way through this film of their exploits, which powered this entire show, my brother Paul and his mate Matt. And just, this is so shambolic, this show, that I've literally got to actually like press play to start the...
So do we.
I think that's it, is that it?
Yeah, it looks like that one, yeah.
Alright, so basically, yeah.
Do you want to read it, mate?
The bits that are words.
Oh, they can see that. That's good, they can see that.
Folks really with the sound.
The sound needs to be better.
It's not gonna kick
Next time we'll do the sound. There's Pompeii.
So these are the Micronesian islands?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any sound at this point. Now this is BBC Breakfast.
Oh, I remember that.
The guy on the left
Hated football.
He told us just before we went on air that he didn't like football, and then said, "So Paul, this is a fascinating project," and then kicked us out of the room immediately.
We left immediately after that. That's Wikipedia telling us and the rest of the world that Pompeii had never won a game, and then therefore were the worst team in the world. And that was unfortunate.
It didn't tell the story. The result didn't tell the story. We missed numerous.
Ask anyone who was there as close. That was Ryan. He was the only bloke who deigned to shut up then.
Our publicity efforts didn't quite work.
Much like this show, actually.
It was one man.
That's you!
That's me. I was saying something really brilliant here. Actually, as I remember it, a lot of people came up to me and shook my hand afterwards. I can't remember what it was, but it was really...
The pitch needed work, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. It wasn't regulation at all.
Yeah,
that wasn't the regulations goals there. They haven't improved at all.Moving on, what else was said? You said something.
I was saying things all the time, you know, like... Look at you saying that's me there.
What was that?
It's fine. I was talking for longer than I remember, but...
Yeah, but you said something about the rain.
I was saying I was raining a lot, and
look at that.
There you go.
That's rain. Rain. You talking about rain?
Yeah, I made kind of a wry remark here about the rain.
That was a funny remark, dude.
It was basically to do with being from Bristol, where it rains a lot.
But you know what? And you know what? This is when more sound kicked in. Yeah. But by July we had some players. That's true. There they are. There was a lot of squeaking and squawking.
I never saw any of these people again after July.
We did have a league. Tell us about the league.
We made a league. It had 6 teams, or 5 teams in it.
These are all copyrighted.
Teams, one pulled out, so we had 5 teams.
All copyrighted logos, just in case any of you.
And then we had the national squad, which was mostly players from the league. That's me with the national squad there.
Or the national squad with you.
It's hard to see which one I am. I was the white guy there.
Tell them about the game.
We won a game.
Here's a goal. Commentate.
This is the goal. It's Marvin Jack plays the ball through there, and that's Joseph Wilson. Oh!
Muted finishes. Muted their celebration.
I mean, the game was a propaganda game so that we could win a game, but we did go goal down against a team of 40-year-olds with paunches, and I was kind of managing. I was just doing this a lot. And
we talk about money.
We need loads of money for these flights, otherwise we can't get any money from FIFA.
We need to basically have money to get money to go and take on other teams in FIFA.
It's a bit like the problem with the world in general, isn't it?
Tell us about the money.
We need the money to fly to Guam to play a game, so that FIFA can give us the money to fly to Guam to play a game.
Say it better.
Well, that is basically it. FIFA don't find this remotely funny.
I don't recall finding that funny either.
But anyway, that was the end of the film. Yeah.
Yeah, people go. Okay.
I think that was a lot like most sort of directors' commentary features. And it starts off being amusing, and after a bit you think, I don't know what's happening here. But just in case you didn't pick it all up there, the gist of it is that, as you would have seen, basically Paul and I have always been keen to be international footballers, obviously. After a while we downgraded our ambitions to international football managers. Unbelievably, even this has been too much until recently. After a bit, Paul thought, well, to hell with this, I'm going to have to sort of force things a bit if I'm to be involved in international football. So he and Matt located this island, or a group of islands, Micronesia, where they had the world's worst team. As you can see there, the previous game that they played, they lost 16-1, which, if you're not a football fan, is a shame. Sort of, in general, if you anywhere above about 12-1 is thought to be a bad result. Paul and Matt, by a series of blags, wrongful claims about their footballing CVs, and having the good fortune to meet a Micronesian with too much power invested in him, were able to go out there and set themselves up as football coaches of a team that shouldn't really exist. I'm paraphrasing. Well, I mean, I don't mean.
Yeah, that's kind of. I don't feel you're really doing this justice.
This is a bit of a tabloid angle. But, they were two men, and I hate to use the phrase "impossible dream," but they became these managers of this team. They moulded the team into shape from some very unpromising. Is that fair?
Some of them are quite good, and there are a few who are, you know,
obese.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Quite a lot of the people were sort of either obese or in prison a lot, and as you can see, it always rains there as well. So all in all, the odds were against them. Nonetheless, they managed to form a team, win the game. As Paul said, it was a sort of set-up game purely so they could win a game, and they still went 1-0 down, but it still counted. And they, Paul and Matt now have official status as the world's youngest international football coaches. They've created a team from dust, from nothing. But as we heard at the end there, the next step is for them to play this friendly against a team in Guam, which would be a real landmark. None of the players have ever left the islands before. Is that true, or is that sort of a slightly racist thing that I'm saying? Like sometimes, you know how in the World Cup, commentators always say things like Cameroon, well, none of them will have seen a ball before. And if a Cameroon player gets injured, they'll say, well, they'll have a witch doctor back there. And because they're black, somehow commentators are allowed to say things like that. Or they won't have seen this. We've long had the joke that they always claim that because Africa is hot, if you play a game and there's an African team and it's anywhere below about 25 degrees, the commentators would immediately, well, of course they'll never have seen this. They won't have seen it. These clouds will be a real shock to them. Like that. It's raining now. That's the end of Cameroon. Anyway, given all this, but most of them have not really.
Your claim is true. 2 of them have left the island before, but they came back again.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So that don't really count.
I don't know. I think it counts as leaving even if you come back. Otherwise, the holiday industry would be hit hard if you weren't allowed to. If you had to market holidays as a trip from which you will never return. Anyway, I'd love to do that. Thomas Cook, go to Poland and stay there. Don't just book it. Condemn yourself to a lifetime in Eastern Europe. Anyway, that could work. It's quite rhyme, but it's hard to find a rhyme for condemn. Apart from things like indem, which that's not technically a rhyme, syllables thing. English degree, but this is my job in the end, I might. Went to Cambridge and this is my job. Shame. So, the point is, they need a bit of money. It's not the sort of thing, this has been our dilemma really. It's quite easy to raise a charity gig where it's like sick kids or some other I was going to move on to say something funny, but I think it's over-ambitious to get a laugh just for saying sick kids. But now and again, I'll chuck something horrible and whoever that was can laugh at that as well. That business in Rwanda. No, not as fun. Yes, what I was going to say is if you've got a cause which everyone can sort of easily understand, that's quite easy. For example, I went to Senegal last week for ActionAid to get people to sponsor kids who are poor. That's easy, everyone can understand that, it's definitely a good thing. This is also a good cause because it raises sort of fitness and opportunities for young people and a lot of things in an area of the world where there's not much, but it's not like sick kids. So, although this is a charity gig, it's also an attempt to raise awareness of this project. And it's worked, as you've seen, they've been on all sorts of television programmes, they've been on breakfast news, interviewed by someone with no interest in football or in the story. And all this is good, but ultimately they do need to raise a little bit of money to be able to embark on this historic fixture in Guam. And if they were able to do that, as Matt and Paul explained, they could then claim more money from FIFA, the World Football governing body. Until then, though, it's, as they said, a question of having to get money in order to be able to get money. So it's a little bit like the classic novel Catch-22, but with not as many people dying in the war and a lot more about football. And so that's why we're doing this. So we've got a lot of fun in store, and by fun I mean sort of this, really, nonsense. But if anything better, if you're enjoying yourselves already, which a lot of people are, then you're definitely going to be fine. Because we've got we're doing actual comedy. Also, I'm going to do some actual comedy at the end. At the moment, I'm doing what you might call admin, which I have found is less popular. There's not really a stand-up admin circuit. Now and again, there are small clubs where people just do a bit of putting stuff in envelopes, but it doesn't get on telly really. I ought to. Oh, it's a great laugh over there. I don't know if that's the same person who laughed at the sick kids, but there is. I've heard that already once. There's someone over there that has got a great laugh where they wait for a bit and then go, ha ha! And then it's a sort of a real sniper of a laugh. No, but not every time, not by any means, otherwise there'd be no fun and no suspense. So what I'm going to do is bring on a series of acts. The name Mark Watson's Football Shambles reflects the fact that it's sort of charmingly shambolic in very much the nature of my career, but also it reflects the fact that we haven't even organised it properly, so we've got quite a lot of acts here, but none of them know in which order they're going on. So it's quite exciting, because when I call the name of the act that's going on, it'll be the first they know about it as well as you. So we're all sort of in the same boat. But as well as actual comedy, there are a few things going on during the night which you should be aware of. The first, oh, by the way, I suppose before I said I should really find out who does and doesn't like football, as you have gathered, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be a sort of that football-centric show, other than the fact that it's sort of, it's in a footballing cause. But the idea is, I think there are four main camps really: people like us that love football, people that don't mind football, people that actively dislike football, and then people that haven't heard of football, don't know what it is. So just quickly, and again, there's no trap involved here. It doesn't matter which of the four you come into, but give me a cheer if you like or love football. What about if you are indifferent to football? Yeah. Girls. And that's completely unfair stereotype. It's just that it was just a much girlier sound. But I already feel guilty. Especially there's at least one girl here I know who does like football. Oh dear, never mind. Sometimes comedy does deal crassly in stereotypes, with enormously lucrative results for those who do it. By the way, later on I'm going to get drunk and just slag off about 10 other comedians. That's why I do it at charity gigs. That's why it's only my own ones that I get asked for. Give me a cheer then if you are actively hostile to football. And it's fine.
Yes!
That's my mum! Was that Matt's mum? Was that Matt's mum?
Yes.
It was there. Just to put it in context, Matt's mum is certainly Paul there to the left as you look at it is the one that's my brother. You probably gather because he looks and talks the same as me. And then that large bloke there is Matt. And
his mum doesn't like
his mum is so proud of this project that she hates football. So far we've identified people that like football, people that don't mind it, Mrs. Conrad, and then is there anyone here who has never seen? Well, no, obviously it was a joke about not having heard of football, but it is a legitimate question. Is there anyone here that's never seen a football match all the way through?
Me.
Of course you, Mrs. Conrad. Misha as well. There we are. I know Misha is not. I haven't got a sort of Darren Brown thing where I immediately start interacting with people without even asking. If you ever get a chance to see Darren Brown, you must. I can't stop. If I stop talking about Darren Brown, there'll be no stopping me. He's the greatest living entertainer. Anyway, it'd be a shame to spend some of the show just advertising a better entertainer than myself. I could have seen tonight at the Wimbledon Theatre. No, I think he's finished. He wouldn't get a ticket. Why? How could you get a ticket to see him? He's brilliant. Now. So you've never seen a match all the way through, even though you're from Coventry. You didn't even watch when they won the FA. Actually, you probably weren't even born when they won the FA Cup. How old are you? Bloody hell. There we are. You will all remember Coventry won the FA Cup in 1987, which for me is like part of my childhood, but quite a few people here weren't even born then. More and more I meet people who weren't born in the 80s and feel a sort of terrible resentment crossed with a clammy knowledge that I'll die in 40 years. Now, I mean, it's fine to have never seen football. I've never seen an episode of EastEnders all the way through. You just find it, don't you? Or Hollyoaks, or most. I don't know if I've ever seen TV. Anyway, that's fine. But and it is actually fine because there'll be very little. What we're going to do is fuse comedy and football, a bit like sort of, I suppose, Badil and Skinner, or if it was a sort of more mainstream football show, I'd now do a joke about a shit footballer, and the joke would be he fuses comedy with football because he's a shit footballer. there's no point in doing that. Because in order for it to be, I'd have to choose a footballer who genuinely was bad. I wouldn't just say Peter Crouch for a cheap laugh, because Crouch is actually a very talented player. But if he was obscure enough, then not enough people would get it, so there's no point. So that's why that little riff shows why there won't be much about football in the show.